Well, it's that time of the week again for Freddy's Power Rankings. How are those teams and players faring with just 3 rounds to go? Let's find out with the man himself, Brad Fittler. Hello to you.
G'day, James.
Great to see you. I'm pumped for this one because there's been a little bit of movement leading into the business end of the season.
Not so much in the team category, but there's plenty of players putting up their hands.
Certainly is. Let's have a look at the
go.
teams, how they stand. Number 10. Well, we haven't seen much of this side leading into our power rankings before, but the Bulldogs have managed to stay there this week. The Tigers also staying put on the back of that win over the Raiders and now within striking distance of the
There's
eight.
a lot of staying put. Big week this week. The Tigers got to beat the Dragons. And there they are, the Tigers. Last week down in Canberra, no one really gave them much of a hope. Well, I didn't.
Who, the Tigers?
Yeah, I sort of just thought it was going to be Canberra down there. You know, they were pretty good the week before, Canberra, against Penrith.
Moses.
Yeah, across the park, they're playing pretty good footy. The Robbie Farah, without a doubt, has helped out. Beautiful pass by Luke Brooks.
They're going to make the finals?
Well, oh, Jesus. I don't know. You've got to think one of them will hang on. Well, they don't have to win one game, really. One of the other teams down the bottom, like Brisbane. I think these are the Dragons, Warriors. Yeah. So, anyway, we'll see.
Okay.
Big game.
Well, that's the bottom two in Freddie's top 10 power rankings. Let's continue up the ladder in 8th spot. The Broncos, another team staying put on the back of back-to-back losses. A team on the slide, though. Only one position. The Dragons from 6th down to 7th. How worried are you, Brad, for fans of the Dragons?
Big test this week. They've got the Tigers. So it's at Leichhardt. They need to turn it around. Kurt Mann's playing 5'8", so a good decision by Mary. Bit of experience in a 5'8". This is their week.
Okay. Dragons, big game, as mentioned, against the Tigers. What about those Warriors, though? They are one of the talking points of the competition, really solidifying their spot in the 8, and they move from 7 up to 6 on the back of that win over the Knights on Friday night.
I think just watching Sean Johnson a couple of weeks ago when he said, no one's talking about us. And it brings some good football. Jared Beale's playing a nice role there. Sort of taking Peter Hiku's spot. Allows Peter Hiku to play on the bench. Sean Johnson's playing well. Look at that. My God. No one's done that to Kalen Ponga all year. He has stopped so many tries, Kalen Ponga. And Fusatua just sort of ran over the top of him. He was lucky not to get knocked out the way it all happened. He had his head in there around his hip. But Warriors, real deal.
All right.
Canterbury this week, big test, ANZ Stadium. That's where the big games are played, so they'll want to perform there.
Bring it on. Will be a beauty. Let's continue up those power rankings in 5th spot. Not much movement here. The Panthers getting out of jail for the 3rd straight week and the 5th time this year, this time against the Titans. The Sharks are the team just ahead of them. Great effort in Melbourne to knock off the Storm. Ahead of them in 3rd. Speaking of the Storm, Melbourne staying put right there. Another team without any movement from last week, the South Sydney Rabbitohs on the back of a loss to the Roosters. Speaking of the Roosters, they are your number 1. They don't move. They are the form team in your eyes, Bradley, of the competition?
Yeah, it's just coming together nicely at the right time of year. There's a lot of talked about this game. Didn't really get to those levels, but the defence was fantastic. It was quite brutal in the middle. A bit of drop ball. Joseph Manu, he's becoming the real surprise packet. And, if you sort of overmark Latrell Mitchell, then you throw the other side and you've got Joseph Manu, who's just been tearing sides apart, creating a lot of interest. Then you still got, at the death of the game, South Sydney had this to claw back, 8 minutes to go, and who else but Cooper Cronk comes up with a bit of a match-winning tackle.
See the bye of the season?
Yeah, well, the 7 or the 1. The fullback's going pretty good as well. So, but I think what happens is Cooper will play his best games coming into when the pressure is
That's how he
gets
rolls.
to be applied. That's how he rolls.
All right.
Pressure.
Let's have a look at your player power rankings heading into the 23rd round of the National Rugby League.
Oh, I couldn't help it. Couldn't help it.
He's had a good couple of weeks and getting out of jail on Thursday night against the Broncos in Townsville. You got a feel for JT in his final season, but I like that you've thrown him into your 10 this week.
Yeah, we should have had JT as well. We could have left out the full name.
Yeah, it's a long name when you look at all those letters, isn't it? Ahead of him, someone else with probably more letters. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck throwing in a hyphen. He sits in 9th. He hasn't moved from last week. But someone coming in to your 10 this week wasn't there last. Tommy Trbojevic, Turbo Tommy, on the back of Manly's back-to-back wins.
Yeah, well, they needed something. It wasn't until late in the first half where they sort of started to get their stuff together. Daly Cherry Evans had played a big part in that as well. But the match-winning plays come from Turbo. Scored a couple of tries, laid on a couple of others, but in general just looked a little bit sharper. I had that poor performance against Penrith a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure that's in the back of his mind. They've won their last couple now at Brookvale, so I think they've got the Titans there this week. Expect another big game from Turbo.
I can tell you from this point on in Freddy's player power rankings, there's all changed from what we saw last week. Sitting in 7th, he's in, wasn't here last week, Matt Moylan, fantastic for the Sharks of late. Isan Masters sits in 6th spot for the Tigers, can kick a goal too. He's jumped into the 10. Who's in 5th? The man that's suspended for the Cowboys against the Sharks this Saturday night, big Jason Taumalolo, another JT from the Cowboys. But in 4th, up from 7th, you can't go past this guy, Jared Hayden. The form he's been in a first half hat-trick for the Eels in that surprise win and big win over the Dragons.
Yeah, well, Mitchell Moses wasn't far away as well. He was outstanding, but I really liked the look of what Jared was doing. Beautiful pass and just sort of playing with him there. Not panicking, draws the player and then just supports as well. I love the way he just sees awareness. He drew the player, then got back behind the ball. That just shows, real knowledge of the game. Come up with a couple of tries. Pretty important game for Parramatta. They need to go into the off-season. They're important for rugby league that Parramatta do good. They've got such a huge following, in such an important area of, rugby league central, sort of, the inner west. And great to see them playing good footy and great to see Jared back to some good form.
Oh, yeah. Let's have a look at your top 3 in your player power rankings. Bradley sitting in number 3 spot up from 5. Nathan Cleary. That clutch field goal after a missed attempt and, of course, the missed conversion, but got it done.
Scored the try as well.
Yep, considering the week he had, my goodness. Up ahead of him in spot number 2 from 4 last week, Val Holmes. How good is he going at the moment after the Sharks win over the Storm? And sitting in number 1, was number 2 last week. He's been promoted, and you're loving the form of this man, James Tedesco, at the right time of the year, Bradley.
Yeah, you can see the teams like Val Holmes, Tedesco, just fullbacks in teams that are doing well. He's just coming up with everything at the moment. His defence is one of his greatest assets. And I was talking to Craig Fitzgibbon about just how he organises the team really well and mostly does it as good as anyone. So, his speed, obviously, in attack, he's quite lethal when they're holding the ball and he's getting on the end of, what everyone else does well. He just seems to have that spurt of speed where he can just pop up wherever they're sort of inflicting any pain, the Roosters. So, enjoying watching him play, obviously, through Start of Origin, played a huge role for the Blues and he's just carried on that form. So he's going to be a real danger going into semi-finals.
Thank you, Bradley.
Thanks, James.
Bring it on. 3 weeks to go. They are Freddy's player and team power rankings heading into round 23.